Chapter 11. Outlining the Speech. Think what might happen if you tried to build a house without a floor plan or an architect's blueprint. You install a cathedral ceiling so you can have big windows and a huge ceiling fan, but the roof is so high it blocks your bedroom window upstairs. You put in sliding doors to the yard, but they can't be opened because they're too close to the fireplace to slide back without hitting it. You think it's a wonderful idea to have almost no interior walls, but when the first snowfall comes, your unsupported roof collapses. Plans and blueprints are essential to architecture. So too are outlines essential to effective speeches. An outline is like a blueprint for your speech. It allows you to see the full scope and content of your speech and at a glance. By outlining, you can judge whether each part of the speech is fully developed, whether you have an adequate supporting materials for your main points, and whether the main points are properly balanced. An outline helps you make sure that related items are together, that ideas flow from one to another, that the structure of your speech will stand up and not collapse. Probably you will use two kinds of outlines for your speeches. One very detailed for the planning stage and one very brief for the delivery of the speech. The preparation outline. The preparation outline is just what its name implies, an outline that helps you prepare the speech. Writing a preparation outline means putting your speech together, deciding what you will say in the introduction, how you will organize the main points and supporting materials in the body, and what you will say in the conclusion. Guidelines for the preparation outline. Over the years, a relatively uniform system for preparation outlines has developed. It is explained below and is exemplified in the sample outline on pages 211 through 213. You should check with your teacher to see exactly what format you are to follow. State the specific purpose of your speech. The specific purpose statement should be a separate unit that comes before the outline itself. Including the speech purpose makes it easier to assess how well you have constructed the speech to accomplish your purpose. Identify the central area. Some teachers prefer that the central idea be given immediately after the purpose statement. Others prefer that it be given and identified in the text of the outline. Check to see which your teacher wants. Label the introduction, body, and conclusion. If you label the parts of your speech, you will be sure that you indeed have an introduction and conclusion and have accomplished the essential objectives of each. Usually the names of the speech parts are placed in the middle of the page or in the far left margin. They are technical labels only and are not included in the system of symbolization used to identify main points and supporting materials. Use a consistent pattern of symbolization and indentation. In the most common system of outlining, main points are identified by Roman numerals and are indented equally as to be aligned down the page. Subpoints, components of the main points, are identified by capital letters and are also indented equally as to be aligned with each other. Beyond this, there may be subpoints and even subpoints. For example, 1. Main point, A. Subpoint, B. Subpoint, 1. Subpoint, 2. Subpoint, A. Subpoint, B. Subpoint, 2. Main point, A. Subpoint, 1. Subpoint, 2. Subpoint. The clear visual framework of this outline immediately shows the relationships among the ideas of the speech. The most important ideas, main points, are the farthest to the left. Less important ideas, subpoints, subpoints, and so on are progressively farther to the right. This pattern reveals the structure of your entire speech. Once you have organized the body of your speech, see Chapter 9, you should have identified the main points. You need only flesh out your outline with the subpoints and subpoints as necessary to support the main points. But suppose, as sometimes happens, you find yourself with a list of statements and are not sure which are main points, which are subpoints, and so forth. Such a list might look like this. There were 13 people at the Last Supper, Jesus and his 12 disciples. Many superstitions revolve around numbers. In the United States, 13, often omitted in the floor numbering of hotels and skyscrapers, the number 13 has meant bad luck as long as anyone can remember. Which statement is the main point? The second statement? Many superstitions revolve around numbers, which is broader in scope than any of the other statements. This would be one of the main ideas of your speech. The fourth statement is the subpoint. It immediately supports the main point. The other two statements are subpoints. They illustrate the subpoint. Rearranged properly, they look like this. 1. Many superstitions revolve around numbers. A. The number 13 has meant bad luck as long as anyone can remember. 1. There were 13 people at the Last Supper, Jesus and his 12 disciples. 2. In the United States, 13 is often omitted in the floor numbering of hotels and skyscrapers. Above all, remember that all points are at the same level, should immediately support the point that is just above and one notch to the left in your outline. State main points and subpoints in full sentences. Below are two sets of main points and subpoints for the same speech on the life of Martin Luther King. Ineffective. 1. Montgomery. 2. 1960s. A. Birmingham. B. March. 1. 200,000. 2. Dream. C. Prize. 3. Final years. A. Criticized. B. Vietnam. C. Assassination. The sample at left might serve as a speaking outline, but it is virtually useless as a preparation outline. It gives only vague labels rather than distinct ideas. It does not indicate clearly the content of the main points and subpoints, nor does it reveal whether the speaker has thought out his or her ideas, but there is no concern about any of these matters with the outline on the right. More effective. 1. King began his civil rights career in the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 through 1956. 2. King's greatest triumphs came during the early 1960s. A. In 1963, he campaigned against segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. B. Later that year, he participated in the famous March on Washington, D.C. 1. More than 200,000 people took part. 2. King gave his I Have a Dream speech. C. In 1964, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. 3. King faced great turmoil during his final years. A. He was criticized by more militant blacks for being nonviolent. B. He protested against the war in Vietnam. C. He was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4, 1968. In sum, a skimpy preparation outline is of little value. Stating your main points and subpoints in full sentences will ensure that you develop your ideas fully. Label transitions, internal summaries, and internal previews. One way to make sure you have strong transitions, internal summaries, and internal previews is to include them in the preparation outline. Usually they are not incorporated into the system of symbolization and indentation, but are labeled separately and inserted in the outline where they will appear in the speech. Attach a bibliography. You should include with the outline a bibliography that shows all the books, magazines, newspaper, and internet sources you consulted, as well as any interviews or field research you have conducted. Two major bibliographic formats are those developed by Modern Language Association, MLA, and the American Psychological Association, APA. Both are widely used by communication scholars. Ask your instructor which he or she prefers. No matter which format you adopt, make sure your statement of sources is clear, accurate, and consistent. For help, turn to page 135. In Chapter 7, where you will find sample citations for the kinds of sources used most frequently in classroom speeches. Give your speech a title, if one is desired. In the classroom, you probably do not need a title for your speech unless your teacher requires one. In some other situations, however, a speech title is necessary, as when the speech is publicized in advance or is going to be published. Whatever reason, if you do decide to use a title, it should be 1. Brief, 2. Attract the attention of your audience, and 3. Encapsulate the main thrust of your speech. A good title need not have what Madison Avenue would call sex appeal, lots of glitter and pizzazz. By the same token, there is certainly nothing wrong with a catchy title as long as it is germane to the speech. Here are two groups of titles. Those on the left are straightforward and descriptive. Those on the right are figurative alternatives to the ones on the left. Group 1. Gambling addiction. The rage to diet. Living with deafness. Unsafe drinking water. Group 2. Against all odds. The art of wishful shrinking. The sounds of silence. Toxins on tap. Which group do you prefer? There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Those in the first group clearly reveal the topic, but they are not as provocative as those in the second group. Those in the second group are sure to arouse interest, but they do not give as clear an idea of what the speech is about. There is one other kind of title you should consider: the question. Phrasing your title as a question can be both descriptive and provocative. Using this method, we can construct a third set of titles combining the virtues of groups 1 and 2. Group 3. Do you really think you can beat the odds? Diets. How effective are they? Can you see what I'm saying? Is your water safe to drink? Sometimes you will choose a title for your speech very early. At other times you may not find one you like until the last minute. Either way, try to be resourceful about creating titles for your speeches. Experiment with several and choose the one that seems most appropriate. Sample preparation outline with commentary. The following outline for a 6-minute informative speech illustrates the principles just discussed. The commentary explains with the procedures used in organizing the speech and writing the outline. Check with your teacher to see if he or she wants you to include a title with your outline. Service dogs. Commentary. Stating your specific purpose and central idea as separate units before the text of the outline makes it easier to judge how well you have constructed the outline to achieve your purpose and to communicate your central idea. Labeling the instruction marks it as a distinct section that plays a special role in the speech. The opening gets attention and, as it progresses, reveals the topic of the subject. Outline. Specific purpose: to inform my audience about 3 major kinds of service dogs. Central idea: guide dogs, assistant dogs, and seizure alert dogs make a huge difference in the lives of their owners. Introduction. 1. Most of us hardly think about simple tasks such as turning on the television or walking across the street. But for many Americans with disabilities, these tasks are anything but simple. B. They could not be accomplished without service dogs. 2. According to the Americans with Disabilities Act, a service dog is any dog specifically trained to assist in an individual with a disability. 3. In researching this speech, I learned how indispensable service dogs are for millions of Americans. 4. Today I will introduce to you 3 types of service dogs: guide dogs, assistant dogs, and seizure alert dogs. Commentary. Here the speaker establishes his credibility and previews the main points to be discussed in the body. Including transitions ensures that the speaker has worked out how to connect one idea to the next. Notice that the transition is not included in the system of symbolization and indentation used for the rest of the speech. Transition. Let's start by outline transition. Let's start by looking at guide dogs. Commentary. Labeling the body marks it as a distinct part of the speech. Main point 1 is phrased as a full sentence. The 2 subpoints of main point 1 are shown by the capital letters A and B and are also written in full sentences to ensure that the speaker has thought them out fully. The progressive indentation shows visually the relationships among main points and subpoints and sub-subpoints. Back to outline. Body. 1. Once referred to as seeing eye dogs, guide dogs help the visually impaired navigate their surroundings. As explained in the 2010 Handbook on Animal Assisted Therapy, guide dogs receive intensive training. 1. Professional training lasts at least 5 months. 2. Another month of training occurs after a dog is assigned to its owner. 3. The result is a dog worth from $15,000 to $50,000. B. Guide Dogs of America is a major trainer of U.S. guide dogs. 1. Its website says the group provides 50 trained dogs free of charge each year. 2. It also notes that there are 7,000 guide dogs currently working in the U.S. Transition. Like guide dogs, assistant dogs are invaluable for those who need them. 2. Assistant dogs perform routine tasks for people with physical disabilities. These dog skills are truly amazing. 1. They help people put on clothes, unload the washing machine, and pick up items on the floor. 2. They also open and close doors, gather the mail, and manipulate keys and cell phones. 3. In fact, they can do almost anything that is needed to help their owners with daily tasks. B. Assistant dogs are invaluable to their owners. 1. Dr. Alice Blue McLendon of the Texas A&M College of Veterinary Medicine notes that these dogs help their owners achieve a new sense of freedom and independence. 2. Phil Day, owner of Black Labrador provided by dogs for the disabled, says, "I wouldn't be without an assistant dog. They help on so many different levels." Transition. Now that we have looked at guide dogs and assistant dogs, let's turn to seizure alert dogs. 3. Seizure alert dogs warn owners with epilepsy when a seizure is about to occur. These dogs can sense a seizure from several seconds to 45 minutes before it occurs, says John Einsminger, author of Service and Therapy Dogs in American Society. B. How seizure alert dogs acquire this ability is a mystery. 1. Dogs cannot be trained to anticipate seizures. 2. Some are born with the power and some are not. 3. There are two major theories to explain the dog's power. A. One theory holds that dogs anticipate seizures through their sensitivity to slight changes in nonverbal behavior. B. Another theory says they detect minor chemical changes through their acute sense of smell. Commentary. The transition shows how the speaker will get from main point 1 to main point 2. Like main point 1, main point 2 is phrased as a full sentence. Points below the level of subpoint are indicated by Arabic numerals and lowercase letters. Sometimes they are not written as full sentences. Check to see what your teacher prefers. The transition indicates that the speaker is moving to his next main point. This main point, like the first two, is stated as a full sentence. Notice the pattern of subordination in this section. Subpoint B states that how seizure alert dogs acquire their ability is a mystery. Subpoint 3 notes that there are two major theories to explain the dog's power. Because items A and B expand upon the theory's point, they are subordinated to it. Labeling the conclusion marks as it is a distinct part of the speech. Summarizing the main points is standard procedure in an informative speech. The speaker's final line reinforces his central idea. Conclusion. 1. As we have seen, service dogs provide vital support for people with physical disabilities. 2. I have focused on guide dogs, assistant dogs, and seizure alert dogs. 3. For their owners, these dogs are much more than the man's best friend. They are a new way of life. Bibliography. United States Department of Justice, Americans with Disabilities, Act 14, January 2008. Dogs for the Disabled, 2010. Eisenmenger, John J. Service and Therapy Dogs in American Society. Fine, Aubrey H. Handbook on Animal Assisted Therapy. Guide Dogs of America. Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. Assistance Dogs offering a new sense of freedom. Commentary. This is the final bibliography. It lists the sources actually used in writing the speech and shorter than the preliminary bibliography compiled in the early stages of research. This bibliography follows the 2009 Modern Language Association format. Check with your instructor to see what format you should use for your bibliography. The speaking outline. I was never so excited by public speaking before in my life, wrote one listener in 1820 after listening to Daniel Webster. 3 or 4 times I thought my temples would burst with a gush of blood. I was beside myself, and I am so still. Such reactions were not unusual among Webster's audiences. He thrilled 2 generations of Americans with his masterful orations. Incredible as it seems today, he did so while speaking for several hours at a time, often without using any notes. A reporter once asked how he managed this. "It is my memory," Webster said. "I can prepare a speech, revise it, and correct it in my memory, and then deliver the corrected speech exactly as finished." Few people have Webster's remarkable powers of memory. Fortunately, it is no longer customary to speak from memory. Today, most people speak extemporaneously, which means the speech is carefully prepared and practiced in advance. But much of the exact wording is selected while the speech is being delivered. See Chapter 13. Your speeches will probably be of this type. You should know, then, about the speaking outline, the most widely recommended form of notes for extemporaneous speeches. The aim of a speaking outline is to help you remember what you want to say. In some ways, it is a condensed version of your preparation outline. It should contain key words or phrases to jog your memory, as well as essential statistics and quotations that you don't want to risk forgetting. But it should also include material not in your preparation outline, especially cues to direct and sharpen your delivery. Most speakers develop their own variations on the speaking outline. As you acquire more experience, you too should feel free to experiment, but for now, your best bet is to follow the basic guidelines below and use the sample speaking outline on pages 216 through 217 as your model. Guidelines for the speaking outline. Follow the visual framework used in the preparation outline. Your speaking outline should use the same visual framework, the same symbols, and the same pattern of indentation as your preparation outline. This will make it much easier to prepare the speaking outline. More important, it will allow you to see instantly where you are in the speech at any given time while you are speaking. You will find this a great advantage as you speak. You will look down at your outline periodically to make sure you are covering the right ideas and in the right order. Compare the following two versions of a partial speaking outline. They are from an informative speech about the history of the United States women's rights movement. Ineffective. 1. 1840 through 1860. A. World Anti-Slavery Convention. B. Seneca Falls Convention. 1. Lucretia Mott. 2. Elizabeth Cady Stanton. 3. Declaration of Sentiments. 2. 1900 through 1920. A. National American Women Suffrage Association. 1. Founding. 2. Objectives. B. 19th Amendment. 1. Campaign. 2. Ratification. More effective. 1. 1840 through 1860. A. World Anti-Slavery Convention. B. Seneca Falls Convention. 1. Lucretia Mott. 2. Elizabeth Cady Stanton. 3. Declaration of Sentiments. 2. 1900 through 1920. A. National American Women Suffrage Association. 1. Founding. 2. Objectives. B. 19th Amendment. 1. Campaign. 2. Ratification. The wording of both outlines is exactly the same, but the visual framework of one on the right makes it easier to take in at a glance and reduces the odds of the speaker losing his or her place. Make sure the outline is legible. Your speaking outline is all but worthless unless it is instantly readable at a distance. When you make your outline, use large lettering, leave extra space between lines, provide ample margins, and write or type in only one side of the paper. Some speakers put their notes on index cards. Most find the 3x5 size too cramped and prefer the 4x6 or 5x8 size instead. Other people write their speaking outlines on regular paper. Either practice is fine as long as your notes are immediately legible to you while you are speaking. Keep the outlines as brief as possible. If your notes are too detailed, you will have difficulty maintaining eye contact with your audience. A detailed outline will tempt you to look at it far too often, as one student discovered. Angela Rossi was speaking about the benefits of Pilates. She had prepared the speech thoroughly and practiced it until it was nearly perfect, but when she delivered the speech in class, she referred constantly to her detailed notes. As a result, her delivery was choppy and strained. After the speech, Angela's classmates remarked on how often she had looked at her notes, and then she was amazed. "I didn't even know I was doing it," she said. "Most of the time, I wasn't even paying attention to the outline. I knew the speech cold." Many students have had the same experience. As long as I have plenty of notes, they feel disaster will not strike. In fact, most beginning speakers use too many notes. Like Angela, they don't need all of them to remember the speech, and they find that too many notes can actually interfere with good communication. To guard against this, keep your speaking outline as brief as possible. It should contain key words or phrases to help you remember major points, subpoints, and connectives. If you are citing statistics, you will probably want to include them in your notes. Unless you are good at memorizing quotations, write them out fully as well. Finally, there may be 2, 3, or 4 key ideas whose wording is so important that you want to state them in simple, complete sentences. The best rule is that your notes should be the minimum you need to jog your memory and keep you on track. Give yourself clues for delivering the speech. A good speaking outline reminds you not only of what you want to say, but also of how you want to say it. As you practice the speech, you will decide that certain ideas and phrases need special emphasis, and that they should be spoken more loudly, softly, slowly, or rapidly than other parts of the speech. You will also determine how you want to pace the speech, how you want to control its timing, rhythm, and momentum. But no matter how you work these things out ahead of time, no matter how often you practice, it is easy to forget them once you get them in front of an audience. The solution is to include in your speaking outline delivery cues, directions for delivering the speech. One way to do this is by underlining or otherwise highlighting key ideas that you want to be sure to emphasize. Then, when you reach them in the outline, you will be reminded to stress them. Another way is to jot them down on the outline explicit cues such as pause, repeat, slow down, louder, and so forth. Both techniques are good aids for beginning speakers, but they are also used by most experienced speakers. Sample speaking outline with commentary. Below is a sample speaking outline for a 6-minute informative talk about service dogs. By comparing it with the preparation outline for the same speech on pages 211 through 213, you can see how detailed a preparation outline is transformed into a concise speaking outline. Outline. Eye contact. Slow down. 1. Don't think about simple tasks. TV, crossing street. A. Not simple for Americans with disabilities. B. Cannot be accomplished without service dogs. 2. ADA, service dog is specially trained to assist person with disability. 3. Research speech learned dogs indispensable. 4. Today, guide dogs, assistant dogs, and seizure alert dogs. Let's start with guide dogs. Pause. Body. 1. Help visually impaired navigate surroundings. A. Training. 2010 Handbook on Animal Assistant Therapy. 1. Professional training. 5 months. 2. Another month with owner. 3. Dogs worth $15,000 to $50,000. B. Guide dogs if America trains U.S. dogs. 1. Website free of charge to 50 people a year. 2. 7,000 guide dogs in U.S. Parentheses, like guide dogs, assistant dogs, invaluable. 2. Routine tasks for people with physical disabilities. A. Amazing skills. 1. Clothes, washing machine, items on floor. 2. Doors, mail, keys, cell phones. 3. Almost anything needed for daily tasks. B. Invaluable to owners. 1. Dr. Alice Blue McLendon, Texas A&M Veterinary Medicine, help owners achieve freedom and independence. 2. Phil Day. Black lab owner. I wouldn't be without an assistant dog. They help on so many different levels. Parentheses. Now turn to seizure alert dogs. 3. Warn owners with epilepsy before seizures occur. A. Several seconds to 45 minutes. Warning. John Eisminger, Service and Therapy Dogs in American Society. B. How dogs do this is a mystery. One cannot be trained to anticipate seizures. 2. Some born with power and some not. 3. 2 major theories explaining power. A. Anticipate seizures through nonverbal behavior. B. Detect minor chemical changes through smell. Pause. Conclusion. 1. As we have seen, service dogs support people with disabilities. 2. Focused today on guide dogs, assistant dogs, and seizure alert dogs. 3. Service dogs are more than man's best friend. They are a new way of life. Commentary. These comments remind the speaker to establish eye contact and not to race through the speech. Including the main points of the introduction helps keep the speaker on track at the start of the speech. It is usually a good idea to pause briefly before launching into the first main point. There is another way of signaling that you are moving from the direction to the body. Most speakers label the body of the speech in the speaking outline as well as the preparation outline. Throughout the outline, key words are used to jog the speaker's memory because the final wording of an extemporaneous speech is chosen at the moment of delivery. It will not be exactly the same as that in the preparation outline. Inserting transitions, make sure the speaker doesn't forget them. Underlying reminds the speaker to stress key words or ideas. Quotations are usually written out in full in the speaking outline. Sources of statistics or testimony should be included in the speaking outline to make sure the speaker identifies them in the speech. Notice how the body of the speech follows the same visual format as the preparation outline. This makes the outline easy to read at a glance. It is usually a good idea to pause before entering the conclusion. Including key ideas and phrases from the conclusion jogs the speaker's memory and ensures that the speech will end as planned. Summary. Outlines are essential to effective speeches. By outlining, you make sure that related ideas are together, that your thoughts flow from one to another, and that the structure of your speech is coherent. You will probably use 2 kinds of outlines for your speeches: the detailed preparation outline and the brief speaking outline. In the preparation outline, you state your specific purpose and central idea. Label the introduction, body, and conclusion, and designate transitions, internal summaries, and internal previews. You should identify main points, subpoints, and subpoints by a consistent pattern of symbolization and indentation. Your teacher may require a bibliography with your preparation outline. The speaking outline should contain key words or phrases to jog your memory, as well as essential statistics and quotations. Make sure your speaking outline is legible, follows the same visual framework as your preparation outline, and includes cues for delivering the speech.